Mercenary!
I'm leaving. Yes, he's a potential ally. Don't sweat it. Yeah, had the same if... Perfect.
Vulcan, I have to talk to you about Edwin. I saw you getting friendly with her. You should be more careful. She is not what she pretends to be.
I know she's not playing straight with us. She's got her little secrets, just like everyone else.
You don't understand. It's a lot more serious than little secrets. I found some very worrying information in one of the last books I read. 200 or 300 years ago, there were other groups of sages and magicians, like the Red Scribes. One of these orders was called the White Lords.
So you think that they were the ancestors of the Ice Lords or something? What does that have to do with Edwin?
I'm getting to that. The White Lords lived in the north of Vertiel, out in the ice. We know little about them. For a long time it was believed they had disappeared. But in reality, they somehow transformed themselves. And in one of the books that I consulted, I found an engraving of a woman, one of their leaders. It was the portrait of that witch.
It is suspicious. We'll have to check it out.
Since you seem so close to her, try to find out more about her past. How old is she? Where was she born? I don't know. Just something, anything that might give her away.
I will have to be careful so she doesn't get wise to me.
Keep me informed, but believe me, I'm almost sure it is her.
I'd like to ask you if...
What do you want to know?
What do you think of Mathras?
I think he's absolutely unique, fascinating. I have always loved history and history books, but he actually lived through history. It's just incredible. There is so much we can learn from him. His knowledge could allow us to better understand what happened in our past. We could learn from the eras of our ancestors.
Do you really think he's immortal?
Oh, I'm convinced of it. You only have to look at him. He's so cultured and has so much knowledge. Which reminds me...
Something to do with our decomposing friend?
Yes, he won't talk to me about his romantic experiences. I managed to get a lot of stories about battles and all sorts of historical anecdotes, but nothing about his love life. It's not that I want to pry into his intimate life, but I do wonder why he's so reticent to talk about it.
I could always ask him for you. I've been thinking... I still haven't managed...
I've taken a tour of the...
Huh. What do you propose?
Well, I'd be safer with a few dozen well-placed traps. Do you think you could build them for me?
Why don't you just build the traps yourself? You know how to do it. We built them together.
True, but I don't have the necessary materials, and I thought that you...
I'll find the stuff you need, but you're gonna build them, all right? I have enough to do already.
Absolutely. I'll save some time by shoring up the best emplacements.
I'll let you know when I've got all... Let's change this. I've got the materials you need to build the traps. Here you go. Have fun.
Thanks. I'll get right to work.
Careful not to blow yourself up, okay? These babies are sensitive. I have a few... I'm guessing this is not the way you'd always imagine coming back to your lands.
For years now, I've been waiting for the day when I could go back to my city. But deep inside, I've dreaded this moment. If I was ever coming back home, it could only mean one of two things. Either I'd been captured by my people, or I'd been forgiven because I was right. I would have preferred being captured. My city has fallen, and I do not recognize it.
This is no time to feel sorry for yourself. This war is not over yet, and your people need you now more than ever.
We have been swept away. There is no more army, no more supply base, and nothing left to fight for.
How long have you been harassing the Deadwalker army without getting caught by your people?
Nearly 7 years.
7 years of guerrilla warfare, and you're still here. You know exactly how Carolthas is laid out. You are going to be essential in the days to come.
Perhaps. We shall see.
Let's change. I brought you a...
Thank you. I'm sure it doesn't seem all that important to you.
I'll leave. Mathras, do you have a moment?
My dear, I have all of eternity.
Who are you exactly?
I am Mathras, immortal and unique.
Right. So why aren't you out there hanging out with your Deadwalker friends?
First of all, I don't have any pals. I'm a little too old for that. Secondly, I find your implication that I am associated with them most unpleasant. I have nothing in common with those dead things. I've been around for over 6,000 years, and I'm still very much alive, thank you. I admit this body is looking a little worn.
6,000 years old. Hey, you don't look a day over 250.
You flatterer. I did, however, lose a toe this morning. Nonetheless, these dead walkers are simply corpses that are animated by magic. Whereas I am an immortal spirit who changes bodies when they wear out. There's absolutely no similarity.
That's not so dumb. It's what allows you to go on having an effect on the world, I guess.
Exactly. I give these bodies extra life that they would not have had if they'd stayed dead. Though, of course, these days, it's unlikely they would stay dead for very long.
I want to ask you a couple of... Why did you come to Carolthas?
Why not? There's one thing you should know about eternity. It can be rather dull. So I do my very best to be in the right place at the right time. The place where it's the most fun.
Fun? You think this is fun?
Well, distracting then, if you prefer. What do you expect? I'm just so bored. The End of the World is a show I wouldn't want to miss.
What do you know about the Deadwalkers?
Apart from the fact that they're an incongruous mass of corpses with appalling bad taste that are animated through the use of magic, nothing. I can tell you that the power necessary for their creation and to keep them working is far beyond the magical abilities of any of your contemporaries. And since it's obvious they are incapable of any decision-making or strategy, they are clearly being controlled from a distance. All of which suggests the Ice Lords who are controlling these things are rather powerful. Something, I grant you, quite difficult to believe when one saw them start out at the same pitiful level of incompetence as their brothers, the Red Scribes.
In 6,000 years, have you ever seen a situation as desperate as this one?
Honestly? Well, no. You are, as you might put it, fucked. Or at least the mortals seem to be. But you carry something within you that may modify things somewhat. And it is this seemingly insignificant detail, this flap of a butterfly's wing, which may eventually change the apparently manifest destiny of the world as you know it. This demon, as you call it, has never before walked the earth. Neither he, neither it, nor any other of its kind. If they had, I would know of it, believe me. Consequently, and in spite of the evident futility of such a sentiment, there may be grounds for you to feel a slight glimmer of hope. That is, of course, if it is your desire to avert disaster.
Well, that's comforting. What happened to the Elven King?
I think he was simply lacking in strength of will and determination. They transformed him into an arch-lich. It's a particularly delicate and extremely dangerous magical process that could only be performed by an Ice Lord. It can only be performed on an elf, and then only one who is desperate to live.
How so?
Elves have many flaws, but most of them do have a very profound sense of duty. If an elf believes he is going to be tortured to make him reveal the secrets of his people, for example, he can literally will himself to die. It would seem that this king was desperate to continue living at any price, rather than dying with honor. That is what allowed them to turn him into an arch-lich.
Do you have any idea about what I am becoming?
In all my long lives, I've never seen your like. Even the term demon seems to be designed to cause confusion. I have seen real demons, when I lived as a war drum player amongst the dwarves.
Dwarves are just legend. You're yanking my chain.
It would be churlish to mock someone when it is so easy. Thus the dwarves did exist, and I was once one of them. They used to use these little creatures, barely the size of toddlers, in their enormous forges. They were little red creatures with tiny horns and a wicked air about them. You see, they were able to survive in the flames. The dwarves called them demons. You look a little like one of them, only much bigger. And you have an even more pronounced affinity with fire. I'm reserving judgment about the wicked attitude. I believe this affinity with flames is no coincidence. You are clearly a response, a weapon, and your purpose is to face the Ice Lords. It is entirely possible that you are the fruit of an attempt to rebalance the forces of nature. Alas, I have no idea which entity is behind all of this.
How are things with Sybil?
What a charming young girl. Her hunger for knowledge reminds me of myself in the distant past, when I was young and still living in my first body. I imagine that if I still felt any physical desires, I would happily give her a good few hours of one-on-one experimental physical training. And it seems to me that she's rather more interested in getting your attention. At any rate, she is by far the most interesting red scribe I've met in the past 300 years, though I fear that may not be much of a compliment, given their legendary incompetence.
Why won't you tell Sybil about your love lives?
I wouldn't have thought you'd be interested in the prurient questions of that young girl, charming as she may be. It seems to me that my sexuality is my own business, as well as which, I suspect my stories would be quite shocking to an innocent girl like that.
Come on, then.
I have been alive on Vertiel a very long time, and before I lost all desire of any kind, I think I probably experienced everything possible, both emotionally and sexually. To recount all my adventures to you in detail would require weeks, apart from which, it's out of the question that I should speak of these things out loud.
As bad as that?
You doubt my word? Very well. Let me tell you about my 14th wife, the Princess of the Elephant City.
For real? But that's gross.
And those are some of my cleaner stories. I told you, I've tried everything. Perhaps now you understand my reticence with your young friend.
Exactly. So what should I tell her?
Whatever you wish. I will confirm whatever story you tell.
Talk to you later. Sybil, can I talk to you?
Yes?
I spoke with Mathras. He finally agreed to talk to me about his love life. Well, lives.
And? What did he tell you?
Our bony friend likes... he's a complete romantic.
I could feel that behind his proud exterior, he was all heart.
He didn't go into too much detail. He's had many wives, and every time he had to watch them grow old and die. And he could do nothing to help.
That's... It's just terrible.
It is. That's why it's so hard for him to talk about it. You understand why now?
Yes. I feel so stupid. Thank you for your help anyway. I won't bother him about it anymore.
See you later.
I have nothing to say.
What can you tell me about Matt?
He is a most unusual being. Do you realize he has been alive for over 6,000 years?
Don't you get the impression that he's just talking bullshit?
Even though at first sight, such a long existence sounds impossible, he has knowledge of history that makes it very difficult for us to doubt his word. And his appearance speaks for itself, if I may be so bold.
It's true that he does look a bit ripe.
As far as I understand it, he regularly changes his bodies. As soon as the one he's taken starts wearing out, he procures a new frame? What is really fascinating is that he is the kind of undead that was previously unheard of. We had no idea there was a being able to transfer their soul from one body to another in order to keep living. Remember that his knowledge could very well turn our vision of mortality upside down. And of course he might provide unhoped for help against the lords of the frozen shadows.
What did I tell you? Once they've recovered from the shock of my somewhat shriveled appearance, everybody thinks I'm highly useful.
He could really help us out. If we could only be sure he wasn't working for the enemy.
You insult me yet again. Joining forces with a band of apprentice sorcerers with a thirst for power would be unworthy of my condition. And didn't I already tell you how to enter the city?
Some basic information that got you into our camp. That seems pretty clever to me.
Really? What would be in it for me? Not that the company of these scribes is unpleasant, but I doubt that our simple little discussions will affect the course of the war.
I can confirm that he hasn't ever been alone. but you look a bit preoccupied with something. Am I right?
The commander says there's a traitor in the camp, and our new friend is obviously a prime suspect. What if he can read minds?
Well, I think that the commander is wrong. We've spoken for a long time with Mathras, and I don't believe for a second that he's got anything to do with your problem. It's obviously very difficult to detect telepathic communication, but as far as I can see, there's nothing to indicate he's capable of it.
Very well. I'll just have to trust you. Let's talk. Do you have a moment? Later.
Greetings, Mert.
Can I have a look?
I wish I could go out on a
What is it, Vulcan?
I wanted to ask you. What do you think of...
The same as I always thought. That all of this fuss has made absolutely no difference. We are in the shite, and the only sensible thing to do is get the hell out of here as quick as possible.
You don't think we have any chance of winning?
How can you ask yourself that question? Standing in front of this devastation. Either you're blind or stupid. Good gods, a whole army was decimated in the blink of an eye.
Let's check. I have... Edwin, I need to speak to you.
What can I do for you?
I would like to ask you a few questions. What's the story with this Mathras guy? Who is he?
It's hard to say. He's one of the living dead. Of that I'm completely certain. But he is able to do things no other species of revenant has ever done before. You must understand that necromancy, the magic that allows the dead to be reanimated, is based upon one principle: giving energy to lifeless bodies. Mathras functions differently somehow. It is not his body that has been brought back to life, but rather his mind, which has survived his body.
He says he's 6,000 years old. You believe that?
It is entirely possible. His spirit is in theory immortal. This magic is far different from that which is practiced in Vertiel. Instead of drawing energy from the world heart, he draws energy directly from the body he is possessing.
Could that have anything to do with the Ice Lords or my demon?
Absolutely not.
Thanks. Hey, Buffalo. I see nobody's managed to kill you yet.
Not before I've seen you blown up by one of your toys.
I'm going.